let's go to the main slate. Cards at Dolphins. It looks like Tua's going to be back. The betting market seems to think so. Dolphins favored by 3. Seen some 3.5s out there, but the total up at 47.5. Who do you like in this one?
Well, you guys probably don't need me to recommend James Conner or Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle in this game, assuming Tua returns. But, everyone's going to get a boost if Tua returns. So I'm going to go with like a Millie Maker style dart throw here, and it's Malik Washington at $3K. Bare minimum price. But last week, you wouldn't know it because they didn't throw the ball, but he operated as the clear number 3 wide receiver. He ran a route on 50% of Huntley / Tim Boyle dropbacks. Odell was just 28%. He seems washed at this point. I'm not too worried about him.
Something too. I remember.
Oh, really?
Kind of. Yeah. Just
not good.
Yeah. Yep.
Even when he's healthy, hasn't been great. But Washington only finished with 2 catches, 9 yards. That was still better than Tyreek or Waddle. So we're grading on a curve here. But he's someone that flashed a ton of upside in the preseason. I know you saw some of his highlights, but he's a big play ability guy. They gave him design run plays that he took 20-plus yards a couple times, I think. So this is a spot where he could be really sneaky at $3K, and you're only going to get one breakout game from him before everybody knows what's up. So this could be the last time you can get him before he blows up, and he's going to be owned like 1% of teams. So again, this is like a Millie Maker play or just like a general GPP, but I think Malik Washington at $3K is very sneaky here.
Yeah, no, he looked great in preseason, and he's outplaying Odell Beckham. But we kind of saw that with Odell last year. He really kind of settled in as the number 4 for Baltimore.
Yeah.
You had Bateman, you had Aguilar. By the end of the year, it just seemed like Beckham was the 4th wide receiver option. So, it's a good. I think it's a good time for you get these rookies. They've been kind of he had 1 or 2 games now. I always like to kind of get ahead of these rookies having their breakout. Tua should be back, so good spot. And the Cardinals 31st in DVOA against number 3 wideouts. So all kind of lines up.
Nice.
Jets at Patriots. The Jets are 7-point road favorites. What could go wrong? The total 41.5. I'm going to go with Kayshon Boutte here, 3,500. 6 catches, 126 yards and a tutty over his last 3 games. So that means he's averaging 42 yards per game over his last 3 and 21 yards per catch over his last 3. He led Patriot wide receivers in routes in each of the past 2 weeks. 88% route rate last week, 76% the week before. Jalen Polk banged up. Demario Douglas should be fine, but he left the game as well with an illness. But either way, Boutte's been kind of ascending here as Polk continues to talk and drop his way out of the lineup. And Tyquan Thornton seem to have given up on him and rolling with the other, one of the other draft picks they made over the last few years. And remember, Boutte was, never really popped, completely broke out at LSU, but he was always playing. Those LSU teams always have some talented guys. I mean, he was playing with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors in his last year there. So not a surprise that he didn't put up massive numbers, but they like him in New England. He's earning more playing time, so gonna roll with him here. Even though it is a tough Jets secondary, but they haven't been playing up to, I think, their talent level. So with Drake May here averaging over 250 a game, let's take a chance on Boutte.
Love it. Yeah, imagine trying to get targets away from Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, he actually did. I think he did catch. Let's see. I think he did catch more balls than Brian Thomas.
Yeah, no,
48 to 31 last year. But
that's what I'm saying. He's really good. Who's the guy that was with all the Jamar Chase and it was Terrence
Jefferson?
Marshall.
Terrence
Marshall. Anytime I was watching Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase highlights, you would see Terrence Marshall mix in. Just it looked exactly like him. So but Boutte, he's kind of their lead guy. I don't know what's going on with Polk. Kind of a mental thing right now, but he's definitely fallen off. Huh? What's that?
He's like delusional. Yeah. He thinks he has the best hands in the NFL, and all he does is drop passes.
It's insane.
Atlanta. Speaking of insane injuries for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Mike Evans looked like he re-aggravated the hamstring after catching a touchdown on Monday Night Football, and Chris Godwin suffered a gruesome ankle injury. Looks like he's going to be done for the year. Evans probably misses at least this week. So the Bucs are field goal underdogs at home against the Falcons. The total down to 46. Who do you like?
This is, I think, this 10th time I mentioned him this week so far, but Jalen McMillan at 3,700. I think Trey Palmer is actually more expensive, which is kind of weird. I think McMillan has the inside track to at least be the top receiver this week because, he opened the season as a starter ahead of Trey Palmer just due to injuries and shuffling things around. Hasn't been the case recently, but I think McMillan's closer to 100% now. So with both receivers done, it sounds like Chris Godwin's out for the season. And I just saw a report, they're hoping that Evans can return after their week 10 bye. So it seems like week 11 is like the soonest he can come back. It looked really bad. So they're going to have to rely on McMillan. Talented rookie receiver. I think he's also, a great deep threat. He's only caught 40% of his targets this year. Not quite Polk level, but I think it's just been due to bad luck. And his expected catch rate's closer to 60%. So unless he's just a terrible receiver, which I don't think is the case, he is due for some better catch rate regression going forward. So love him at 3,700. Again, guys like Trey Palmer and Sterling Shepard absolutely mix in as well. But I think McMillan probably has the most upside.
Yeah, it's I think the jury's still out on exactly how good he is because he's had some success early in the year, but it's just kind of been, then he got hurt, so you haven't been able to tell. But again, good time to kind of get ahead on some of these rookies. Not everyone breaks out in week 1 or 2. Not everybody's going to be Malik Neighbors. I remember, what was it now, 4 years ago, we both were really high on Amon-Ra St. Brown and just kind of stuck with it. And then, around like week 8, week 9, week 10, somewhere in there.
Wait, he wasn't just good? He wasn't just good week 1? I'm trying to remember.
I mean, he was good, but he was productive? No.
Yeah. Remember, Justin Jefferson wasn't, like, elite out of the gate. They still feeling and stuff. Well, it took him 3 games.
Oh, yeah, let's say.
But, I'm going with your point here. It's not always instant. Not that McMillan's really in the same class.
No, he's not that good. But, yeah, he he could be. Him and Trey Palmer, I mean, they both of them haven't had with Godwin and Evans not missing time, they haven't had a true chance to break out. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got my guy Stucky's favorite team. Shouts to Stuck. The Tennessee Titans going to Detroit to play the Lions. Lions favored by 11. The total 45.5. I'll give you 2 here. Tim Patrick and Khalif Raymond. Looks like Jameson Williams is going to be facing his annual suspension for 2 games. I think it was PEDs this time. Sounds like Adderall or something like that. Nothing too serious, but I believe it's like he's going to just take the 2 because it's then like not appeal or something like that. So I think that's going to kick in this week. If it does, Patrick and Raymond both in the 3,000s on DK. Patrick, I think, is a little bit safer just because he's been playing ahead of Raymond, so he probably becomes the wide receiver 2, although Raymond's speed is more of a 1-for-1 replacement for JMO. But Patrick averaging 48 yards per game, 21 yards per catch over his last 3. And then Raymond with a 4 for 73 game a couple weeks ago, and then he 3 for 39 and a touch last week. So both of these guys averaging right around 50 yards a game, in the very recent past. This Tennessee secondary, they had some really easy matchups to start the year, and Algerius Sneed not playing well. I think he was out last week. So Awuzie is on IR, another corner they have. So I think this Tennessee secondary a little bit overrated. Unfortunately, they couldn't hold Buffalo in check enough last week to cash your under. But I think these ancillary Lion players have some success. Now, maybe this is the game where they try to get Laporta going. Who knows? But it's a little dicey. But I think you have to take as good as Goff is playing, I think you have to take the prices with these with Patrick and Khalif Raymond here.
Yeah, it seems like Jameson will accept they can appeal it, but it seems like this would be the time to have him miss 2 games because they're facing the Titans won't need him. And then their only outdoor game of the season next week against Green Bay. If there ever a time to not have Jameson, be these two games. So I'm thinking, yeah, he will be out here, and these guys
are just forfeiting like the Lions. They're just forfeiting outdoor games with Jared Goff.
No, I'm just saying, like Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams out there with the long sleeves and the cold, like it's not cold there yet, but you don't want to miss him any games. But if there were ever a time, it'd be like the lone outdoor game where Jared Goff is all confused and getting sacked and things like that. So that's all. There's never a good time to be without Jameson Williams right now, but this week for sure.
Speaking of the Pack, they are in Jacksonville, who is back from London, but I guess teams just don't take these buys coming off these London games anymore. That used to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not crazy. Okay.
And they've been there for weeks now.
Yeah, right.
Jet lag.
Yeah, they're plus 4.5 at home. The total up to 50. I think it hit 51 at one point. So should. I mean, Jacksonville, their secondary is problematic. But who do you like in this one?
Well, there's just a ton of high-end guys that you probably don't need me to mention. Unfortunately, can't use Brian Thomas Jr. for these anymore. He has blown up and is way too good now. But for the Jag side, assuming Travis Etienne misses again, I think Dearness Johnson at 4,800, again, that's kind of expensive, would be a great leverage play because everyone's going to be all over Tank Bigsby, as they should. He's going to be highly owned here, but they leaned on him heavily last week once they had the lead. And he had a great game, but this is a game where the Jags could get behind, get a trailing game script. That really sets up better for Dearness Johnson. He's their pass-catching back. So I think this could be a great spot for him to potentially outscore Bigsby, where everyone's going to be all over Bigsby. Now, if ETN returns, he's going to be a pass. It could be a murky situation. I think, Bigsby might be the starting running back the rest of the season. But Dearness Johnson, if ETN's out, is a must play here in GPPs. And then on the Packers side, again, everyone's healthy now, so it's tough, but I'm going to go Dontavian Wicks at 5,300. He has like Zach Charbonnet syndrome where he's just insanely efficient when he's like the backup. So he returned back to his my week one projection for him, 46% routes run rate. But he saw a target on 35% of his routes, which is, Tyreek Hill last year levels. And this is a great matchup against the Jaguars, so he doesn't need that much playing time to pop here. And he's always a threat to score. So this is a week where can't imagine a lot of people are going to be taking Wicks at 5,300. So I think he's a nice dart throw in GPPs this week.
Yeah, always a crapshoot with these Packer wide receivers, but we love the talent of Dontavian Wicks, and he even hurt. He came through last week. Next up, Colts at Texans. Texans favored by 6. That line's been moving in the Texans direction. The total 46.5. Didn't hit for us. One of the few that didn't hit for us last week, Dalton Schultz. I'm going back to him though because I just look at this Texan offense and I see you got Diggs, you got Dell, but without Nico, you have Xavier Hutchinson, who probably still a little green. You have Robert Woods, might be banged up, and you have Mechie, who hasn't been able to really seize a role. I thought he was going to kind of step up as that fourth option behind their top three, and then be the third option. But he hasn't really kind of seized that role, and he's been inactive for a bunch of games with Nico healthy. So leaves me with Schultz at 4,100, 83% route rate the last 3 games. Since Nico has gone down, the Colts 27th in DVOA against tight ends. And remember, they play a lot of cover 3 zone under Gus Bradley, and as opposed to, let's say, a cover 2 zone or something like that, you have 5 guys in those underneath zones. Cover 3 zone, you would have only 4 guys in those underneath zones. So could give Schultz a couple extra chances. That could be why their numbers aren't great against tight ends. So going right back to Dalton Schultz, he's got to hit. He's got to hit eventually. One of these days. Yeah. Stroud's too good. He's too good.
Yeah, like with tight ends like that, you can't play whack-a-mole. Sometimes you got to double down the next week to hit.
Baltimore at Cleveland. The Browns are 9-point dogs at home. The total 44.5. Ooh, high total for Browns game. I guess this is what happens without Deshaun Watson. But you called it with Tillman last week. You going back to him again?
Yeah. Sometimes you could double down even if you hit them. I think since I got him at 3K last week, I could stick with them. I like Cedric Tillman when he was underground. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
right.
everything came true. Like he flashed some upside last year. He was a fourth round pick, but he has some upside, and just Amari Cooper getting traded away. I know Elijah Moore was banged up a bit. Potentially getting Jameis Winston under center at some point. The needle is pointing up for Tillman, but man, he blew up last week. 8 catches for 81 yards. His routes run rate was over 80%, I think. Let me see what it was.
Pretty high.
It was. It was what?
It was pretty. It was pretty
Yeah,
high.
82%. Yeah, 82%. So the playing time's there. The targets haven't been there this year, but again, with Amari Cooper gone, that's kind of where that was going to come from. So love his upside. And again, if it's Jameis Winston under center, I'm going to like him even more. Right now, I kind of have it split between Winston and DTR. But again, they didn't really raise his price much. It's at 3,300. So his ownership will be much, much higher this week. But again, at that price against, a pass funnel Ravens defense, I think you have to use them in GPPs anyway, and then spend up to be contrarian elsewhere. But I think he's a must play at 3,300 in GPPs.
Yeah, and he one of the reasons I don't love him just as a player because he was very another one of those guys that just a lot of routes, no targets last year. But this year, what I do like is we're starting to see his average depth of target come down. So for the year, it's only 8.7, and last year it was 12.2. So if he's getting higher percentage looks, he can use that big body, 215 pounds, less likely to be inaccurate targets, whether it's DTR or Winston. So yeah, from that perspective, I definitely think he's trending up, and if he can kind of if his target per route rate is jumping because now he's higher in the pecking order, then. Yeah, because he did have that experience last year. Ran 358 routes last year, so it's not like he's just getting on the field for the first time. So he's trending up. We got the Eagles at the Bengals. That's a pretty good game. Bengals favored by 2.5. The total 47.5. I'm gonna buy low on Andre Yosavash here at 3,500. 75% route rate on average in the 5 games. T. Higgins, who's playing really well, has played. But Philadelphia is still around the 9th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers and the 10th most schedule adjusted targets per game, according to FTN, to wide receiver threes. So Yosavash didn't really need him. He had 17-7 kind of low scoring game against the Giants. You had a game against the Browns where they only had 6 points for most of the game. So this week, Philadelphia's offense could put up more of a challenge, make the Bengals, have more. Have to score more, get more 1-1 personnel instead of the 2 tight end looks that they've been going to a little bit more. So like Yosavash to bounce back here at 3,500. Last week was his first truly, just shutout game. Mm-hmm. So I think people will be off of him. Bills at the Seahawks. Bills favored by 3 on the road, total 47.5. What do you like in that one?
I like Noah Fant at 3,700. Really seen solid usage this season, with Will Disley and Colby Parkinson gone. Last week, he only ran a route on 52% dropbacks, but that was more to do with the blowout. He tends to be in there on, passing downs, trailing game scripts, and A.J. Barner's out there for the more run-heavy offense. So wasn't too surprised to see him, see a dip in playing time with the leading game script, the blowout, really. But this week, the opposite's going to be true. Probably, they're facing the Bills. Could be a trailing game script. And, if DK Metcalf is out or limited, Fant would benefit. He's going to see more targets. Obviously, Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba would be the popular plays. But I think Fant would be kind of sneaky as well. And if DK is ruled out, you got to consider Jake Bobo. He always seems to find the end zone, and he'd be the guy that would step up if DK is out here. But either way, I think Fant's a solid play whenever we have a potential trailing game script for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I believe Noah Fant leads the league still. Maybe it came into last week leading the league among tight ends in routes run. Now, yeah, he's 7, so he's still still
total routes run.
Yeah, because they're just Seattle calling a ton of pass plays, and now you're playing Buffalo. Yeah. So yeah, he's gonna be near the top of the league in that category, and that's all we asked for. He hasn't got a touchdown yet, also, so he's due for some touchdown regression himself.
And you
Geno
kind of
Smith
called
is due for touchdown regression.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And you kind of called it earlier in the season, just that their time of possession might be better.
Yeah,
with the new coaching staff. That's been the case this year. So a lot of things like, but yeah, it's so weird. Geno, does he have a touchdown game this year?
Last week. That sounds more like Deshaun Watson. No.
Touchdown. Last week. I kind of called that. He was due.
Was on that.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, I was hinting at that with my Geno top 5, but yeah, finally a multi-touchdown game for Geno Smith. But yeah, eventually Noah Fant will find the end zone. Hopefully it's this week.
Next up, we have the Saints at the Chargers. Chargers favored by 7.5 coming off that Monday night walk-off loss to the Cards. The total is 39.5. This is one to monitor because there could be some sneaky options here on the Chargers side. Just depends on health. Quentin Johnson missed last week. Hayden Hurst missed last week, so we'll see if they're back. But I'm going to go with the team that we know for sure is banged up, and that's the New Orleans Saints. So let's go Juwan Johnson here. Really rough game for him against Denver. I saw him drop at least one pass, might have been more than that. But the Chargers are tied for the 8th most schedule-adjusted targets to the tight end position at 7.2 according to FTN, and yardage they are 7th most, 56.3 schedule-adjusted to the tight end position. And they play a ton of zone, so you kind of expect that. Spencer Rattler, Jake Hainer, whoever's going to be behind center at some point with being a 7.5-point dog, you're going to have to throw the ball against the zone. So I think Juwan Johnson, even if Taysom Hill's back, I think Juwan Johnson still should have a good game here. Olave is still in the concussion protocol, which you don't love to hear coming off a Thursday game. So who knows what's going on with him. But Johnson's been reliably running at least, been out there about 2/3 of the dropbacks or more over the last 4 games. So I think he's going to continue to be out there because he's one of the only reliable pass catchers they have. I mean, they could be down to Mason Tipton, Bub Means, and Cedric Wilson, and maybe MVS and Pettis at wide receiver if Olave doesn't play.
Where the hell was Equinemius St. Brown last week? He was elevated. And they
yeah, he's not elevated in terms of pass catching.
Well, they have they have MVS now.
Yeah. Somebody's getting elevated probably regardless this week. Could be Equinemius again, could be MVS, could be Pettis, who knows. But Juwan Johnson, former wide receiver, so 3,300, good price for him. Bears at the Washington Commanders. With the news that Jaden Daniels is week to week, I say that because air quotes, because week to week this year had been all over the place with those reports. But I think they have to play it safe here. It's unfortunate because I really wanted to see the Jaden Daniels Caleb Williams matchup. Horrible timing for this injury. Either way, Washington plus 2.5, plus 3, depending where you look at home. Total down to 43.5. Who do you like in this game? I guess I'm assuming you're thinking Daniel's going to miss this one too, right?
Yeah, I think if the line's up to 3 in some spots, that's your clear signal that he's going to be out. That books wouldn't be taking bets at plus 3 if they thought he had a chance to play. So I'm assuming he's out here. But Marcus Mariota held his own last week, so I'm actually going to take one of these Washington wide receivers. I'm going with Olamide Zaccheaus at 3,600. It's always just a crapshoot after Terry McLaurin. They just use a heavy rotation of like 4 to 5 wide receivers, but Zaccheaus has been stepping up the past couple of games. Last week, he had the highest routes run rate at 64 outside of Terry McLaurin, obviously. And he's seen a 30% plus target rate for 2 straight games. So he has 2 games of 4 catches. And he showed he had chemistry with Marcus Mariota last week. So I think they stick with him here. And again, he's just a cheap option where this should be a pass-heavy game script for the Commanders, assuming they do go down. So I think he's sneaky here, and hopefully we get a cheap touchdown. But I think he could be a good bet for 4 to 5 catches here.
Yeah. So for some context, you mentioned Noah Brown, Zacchaeus, Diami Brown, and then Luke McCaffrey all splitting
Yep.
snaps behind McLaurin. Here are the target per route rates. Noah Brown, 19%. Diami Brown, 12%. Luke McCaffrey, 9%. Olamide Zacchaeus, 27%.
Yeah, you're talking season long, right? Yeah.
Yeah, highest on the team.
Out of
Over
control,
McLaurin at
yeah.
24. Yep. So that kind of puts it in perspective. Now, the caveat being that a lot of that did come with Jaden Daniels. I think Mariota's a nice start throw, by the way. I know we don't really try to stay away from quarterbacks because a little more obvious, especially if you're multi-entering, you could just go almost every quarterback. Yeah. But I think Mariota's worth mentioning just because he can do some of the same things, running the ball and things like that. So, he's worth mentioning. But I like that Zacchaeus call. Where do you have his regressed target rate?
That's a great. I was thinking when you were saying those, I was like, a little bit lower, but I have it 19.5.
Oh yeah, so I guess my regression's a little bit stronger. Oh well, because my prior was really low for him because he never used to get targets like that. But I'm at 18. So yeah.
Oh nice, yeah. We're speaking the same love language here. My 13.5 was my prior.
Yeah.
I don't know where yours
Mine was 11.
Well, there you go. That's why I'm a little higher.
Yeah. I don't know what he did to deserve that. I got to go back and check. That's about the lowest you could possibly. I think I have it capped at 11.
Yeah, so, that's pretty bad. That's like Jalen Hyatt, or no, Jalen Hyatt's not even.
No,
he's on the field for one play and they throw it to. If anything, he's 100% target per route run rate. But yeah, either way, we're kind of saying that we don't expect him to be targeted on 26.5% of his routes run this year, but we can't ignore it either. So he's pushing that 20% routes run rate, and now he's getting an increase in playing time. So that's really what you ask for when it comes to these ancillary receivers.
All right, next up we got the Panthers at the Broncos. So another chance for the Broncos to get a win for that win total. 8.5 is the spread, -8.5. The Broncos have been bet up 43.5 the total. I'm gonna go with Troy Franklin here. 4,100. Bo Nix's college teammate at Oregon, 67% route rate over the last 2 games, second most on the team. Remember, Josh Reynolds was the former number 2. He's on IR. Then it was Will Jordan Humphrey. Now he seems to be more of a red zone package guy. So you have Franklin taking over as that number 2 receiver. 8 catches for 101 over the last 3 with a touchdown, and 5 for 50 in the last game. So he is trending upward, and they already have chemistry. And you mentioned it, Sutton had no targets last week. This is a game where you might not see too much volume. So I think Franklin, being that guy who's going to run some deeper routes and is probably going to see less of JC Horn, could be the lead receiver for the Broncos this week. Yep. So like him. Kansas City at Vegas, +10 for Vegas at home. The total 41.5. Who do you like in this spot for this banged up Chiefs? Both these teams banged up, really.
Yeah, they were both banged up. I'm going to go with Mecole Hardman Jr. at 4K. Juju now out. It's kind of up for grabs. We're seeing Sky Moore get some playing time. But Mecole saw a 34% routes run rate last week, a season high. And I wouldn't be shocked if they lean into him even more this week. He did have 2 design rush attempts for 38 yards and a touchdown. I could see them tapping into that more in a game they should win against the Raiders. But yeah, just when it comes to the receivers, Xavier Worthy is going to be popular. He's starting to see an increase in usage. But I think Mecole Hardman would be the dart throw here in bigger GPPs because I like his touchdown upside here. We could see a spike in usage. Long term, though, I think they probably do need to trade for somebody. But at least for this week, I think Hardman Jr. Is worth the play.
Yeah, no, I mean he's kind of he was a lot better before he went to the Jets, and then everyone is kind of down on him. But I mean he came up big in the Super Bowl. So I think I probably got more juice than Juju, to be completely honest with you. So
for sure.
I don't hate that at
all.
And
I know you're high on the Chiefs defense from our waiver pod a while ago. He's the returner. Absolutely stack him with the Chiefs defense. I think the Chiefs defense is great. I know we don't talk about defense anymore. Thank God. But the Chiefs defense is a great play this week against Gardner Minshew. And Mecole Hardman's the returner, so you can get the double dip with him if he returns a touchdown as well.
Yeah, no, I like that.